Hey, thanks for joining me. I'm going to do another repeat of an art book that I've looked at once before, but again, I did that 3 years ago. And I was digging through all my shelves of comics and stuff and looking for something else, and I ran across this thing again. I mean, it's not like it was hidden, I knew where it was. It's up there on a shelf with a bunch of other art books. But I pulled it out and started flipping through it, and once again, I'm like, good Lord, goddamn, is this good? And we got to show it. We got to shout this out. Um, I got this from God. I think it was a crowdfunder. Like I said, it's been 3 years, but Dan Panosian rhymes with Bedrosian. Um, this is one of those artists where I saw his work way back in the 90s when I was a young kid and just getting kind of started. And I instantly knew I did not like his art. And I hate saying that, but I mean, I'll rapidly kind of turn that around here because obviously I'm here to shout out his work. And I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but I think Dan Panosian would probably agree that his early 90s work, it was just not great. And that's being kind of considerate. But there was a lot of artists that were young in that era that were trying to draw in a specific way, specifically the image comic style. And they just didn't have the fundamentals. They didn't understand how to really create really quality art. And Dan Panosian, I remember looking at his work in some books that he'd done, and I'm like, this is not interesting. I could see the style that they're trying to do. Like, he drew the first issues of Prophet, right? And I remember looking at that going, he's trying to do like a Rob Liefeld-ish kind of thing. And I didn't like it. And then it's this weird thing where I kind of associated his name with just bad art for years. But then, I don't know, I kind of lost track of him for a long stretch of time. And then suddenly he came back, and I mean, not that he actually left and went away and come back in that kind of sense. I don't know what he was doing with his career, but suddenly I saw his art, and it was just like on a whole other level. He had become a true artist with absolute mastery and understanding of how to draw. And it's just so good. It's kind of unbelievable. And so I started following his work, and it was just like, if you saw his earlier stuff, his earlier work, you would look at it and go, how is this the same guy? Like, it's just not possible. I mean, obviously it is, but this is one of my favorite examples of seeing an artist where he started out a certain way and went off and learned how to draw and come back absolute master, first-rate artist. And I don't know how his career is going specifically. It seems like he gets to work in comics and he gets to make stuff, and I hope he's doing well. I was going to say, and I guess I don't know for sure, is that I feel like he's kind of underrated, and he deserves some kind of like big kind of push to show that he is one of the best artists out there. Some big project just to show him off, just to push him into the stratosphere in terms of people's awareness. I mean, everyone knows who the guy is, really, but I don't know. I want some big, giant, incredible project from him that just shows just how unbelievably good he is. But anyway, yes, this art book that I got here, Dan Panosian, Urban Barbarian. That's his name on the internet. I believe that's his handle on Instagram, things like that. The collected works. Why beat around the bush? Let's just get into it. Is it something about the back? Oh yeah, there's a picture of the fella right there. Absolute badass. Again, if you'd ever seen Panosian's work back in the 90s when he was, like, for example, at Extreme Studios for a hot minute, and then look at this stuff, it's so crazy. And I did kind of ask him once on social media, and he was kind enough to respond to me. It was just a kind of a quick response. I asked him if I was like, is he, because so many people go to digital. Like, I don't know. I'm guessing some of the stuff in the background here, this could be a digital zip. I don't know for sure. But he absolutely does draw on paper with a brush, pencil in hand. You know, it looks like a maybe a like a colored pencil to give it the gray tone in there. He does stuff by hand, and then again, this could be some kind of digital addition. But just the fact that he's still doing things traditionally by hand on paper, it's fantastic. It's so incredible how good he is. Even just his coloring. I don't know what this weird creature bug thing that we're looking at here. I mean, there's a bunch of text that kind of talks about what things are, and I'm not going to sit here and try and read everything because, again, I have already looked at this once. But I just like the grayscale, the black and white movie kind of vibe that you got going on here. And one thing that I love about his work, a term that somebody said about a drawing I did a long time ago, they used the term implied detail in the drawing that I was doing. And it really stuck with me. And it's kind of been something that I look at and see how other artists apply the idea where there's a lot of detail, but when you look up at it real close in certain areas, it's actually kind of not super accurate. It's just more of like implying the shapes and the lighting, and just to kind of give you a vague idea of like the backgrounds and the stuff. Just looking at this drawing, you can tell this guy's at a bar, it's lit, there's people there, there's people in the distance, they're in a room, there's lighting, there's objects. But if you look at it up close, it's just kind of a blob of shapes and tones. But I'm not saying that as a negative. It's brilliant if you know how to do that. You don't need to have hyper precision detail in all the backgrounds everywhere. It just needs to kind of tell the idea of what you're looking at, the implied detail. And that's not to say that's what he does on everything. That's just something that he applies there, and it looks so fantastic. I love his very naturalistic ink line. Looks like if I had to guess, brushwork. That he does here. His female faces, they're like that really nice balance of realistic enough that it looks like a human being, not a cartoon or a caricature, and that's not bad. Some artists like Joe Mad or J. Scott Campbell draw things to be a cartoony style. That's perfectly fine, but there's a balance of like right in between very realistic but also comic booky cartoony, so it's not a photo that we're looking at. And again, I'm assuming he does the coloring on these, and if not, whoever did the coloring is fantastic. But I love the lips on that, so great. And then you get a shot of like the black and white and then the colored version. Yeah, there's an example where you see the original artwork here, and then there is some dot patterns on the ground here, and a few bits on the figure there, some up on her shoulder. So again, I would guess that this is some digital dot pattern zips added to it, and I think it looks great. If I had a nicer digital kind of setup, I would love to be able to add stuff like that to my own art. I keep thinking about getting some actual Zipatone patterns and trying to do it. I've seen one of my friends that I've met through the channel, Daniel Gonzalez. He's an incredible artist, and he's adding actual physical zips to his own art, putting the paper down, cutting out the shapes, peeling it off. Looks amazing if you know how to do it. But I also like the idea of being able to add it digitally. God, is there any sexier villain costume than the Goblin Queen's like underboob outfit? The bare tummy, the torn little dress thing, the cape, the clasp up top, beautiful expression on her face, the little demon monsters. Fantastic stuff. Love it. Also, another kind of addition I'm going to assume that the colorist has done is like the candles. There's no lighting on the candles, but in the colored version, it's added there. And then the lighting from the candle is being cast on her. God, it almost looks like watercolor. I'm wondering, digital art is advancing so much that certain lines and colors and rendering methods, you just can't tell a difference between between whether it's digital or done by hand in a lot of cases, because it's becoming so advanced. I would love to be able to talk to this man. If I could ever get an interview with the guy and just chat him up and talk about his art, that would be like so freaking amazing. Deadpool. Who doesn't love Deadpool? I mean, I kind of don't. I'm kind of sick of him, honestly. Great figure drawing there. again, that kind of nice balance of extremely attractive female figure, but not overdone, not giant rack and microscopic waist and the ass sticking out. It's very rooted in realism, but it looks great. Fantastic. These are Frazetta characters, right? Beautiful horse. What is it? The Death Dealer? Is that what that character is? Love it. Some kitty creature with the butterfly on his weapon. Don't know. Boba Fett. Always fun. Again, some of these characters, I don't know what these are. That's awesome. Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. That's an interesting, weird idea. Love it. God, I just love his ink line. Kind of a squiggly kind of pattern that he does. And so naturalistic. It feels so organic. Great shot of Luke Cage. Great hands. How about that? Great hands. There's a lot of artists out there who absolutely could not do that same thing. Is this a Moon Knight? Vampire Moon Knight, maybe? Giant Hulk smashing. Badass. Hell yeah, Mary Jane. Flick those buttons. Rack up that score. Hell yeah. Spider-Man and the Lizard. Fantastic. That is cool. Both versions look incredible, but my eye personally is always drawn to the grayscale, kind of the black and white. I wonder if that's like Copic markers or ink wash or digital gray. I don't know. Great outfits, probably photo referenced. That's awesome. How about Wolverine riding a dinosaur? It kind of is got a Frazetta vibe with like the girl up front with her back to us. There's probably some kind of, I think, intentional, obvious Frazetta homage kind of thing going on. Great dinosaur. Great Venom over here. I appreciate that Panosian kind of limited the slathering long tongue. I'm one of those few people that's not a fan of the tongue. Like, it works. It's fine. It's kind of a specific, like, identifying trait of the character anymore. It's like Venom has to have the tongue, like Wolverine has to have claws, I guess, but I never liked the tongue. I kind of got sick of it. I appreciate that it's kind of scaled back a little bit in that one. Hot girl snapping chains. Hell yeah. This face on this girl, Poison Ivy, right? Let me bring that up there. That is one of the most, like, subtly beautiful, perfectly rendered faces I've ever seen. Those lips, that sultry eye, it looks so good. To me, it's literal perfection. This is one of those things I've, through my dumb little channel here, and where I make my own comics and do my own drawing, and I do live streams, and I quite often, I get people who show up on my live streams and ask about, how do you get better drawing? How can I improve? And the only advice I can ever give anybody is, like, the only way you're going to get better is if you just keep doing it. And I tell people that you'll never be completely satisfied with your own art. Typically, it's rare when an artist draws a thing and they stop and they look at it and go, fuck yeah, nailed it, perfect. At least that's been my kind of experience from what I seem to hear people say and what I read from other folks and my own personal experience. But I did say, and I tell people, like, but the thing is that the thing that you draw, someone else will look at it and go, it's absolutely perfect. There's nothing that could be done to improve that face, in my opinion. And I wonder if Panosian himself would look at that, and I mean, he might think he nailed it. Maybe it's one of those ones where he's like, fucking nailed it. It just come out just the way he wanted. But I wonder if there's also part of him that's like, he had an idea in his head and it didn't quite manifest exactly the way he wanted. But to me, and to a lot of us, we look at it and go, perfect. That's the crazy thing about art. It becomes something different for everyone who observes it. We all get a different opinion. We all have different feelings. And good Lord, that face is just... I could draw comic book figures all my life, and if I ever could nail one that perfect, I'd be a happy man. And Panosian's not just a pinup artist. This man can draw sequential pages. Holy shit, look at this. The understanding of actual physical figures, real human beings, and real clothing, real outfits, the storytelling of these hands up close as they clap as these people walk into the room, actual perfect period specific clothing. How about all these backgrounds? And again, it's also kind of quickly sketched in there. You know, you can look at it, you can just kind of see he's got like a, again, I'm assuming a brush, and going in here and just kind of doing some up and down squiggly lines to make a grassy texture. And then a little bit more dense squiggly line, gets a little heavier, maybe dab some heavy black in there to give it, give this tree a heavy kind of shadow to make it feel like it's full and thick towards the center, and gets lighter towards the outer edges. And of course he's going to get in his perspective to get the cars and the stumps and the buildings and the street lights all in proper perspective. Holy shit, look at this shot of cars. It's so dense. Is there anybody from Extreme Studios back in the 90s who can even come close to doing this type of shit? There's probably some, for sure. But is there anybody who went from where Panosian used to be to where he is now? This level? I don't know. There's got to be an argument to be made that of like the most advanced artist that's excelled the most. And again, this is the sign of a true artist. That looks incredible, and I couldn't think of anything more fucking tedious in my life to draw than a cityscape like this. I mean, you know, there's some character to it. It's not just a bunch of straight, rigid skyscraper buildings with perfect, you know, concrete and glass. Like, these are old buildings, you know, shingle roofs and a bunch of angles, different angles going across the top of the roof, trees. And, you know, if you look at everything up close, you know, it's just kind of like some basic splotchy ink lines, but it's all in the right place, and it reads perfectly at a slight distance. And it's like, this is mastery. It's fantastic. Butterflies and bombs. I'm not sure what that's for, but that's freaking awesome. Great color choices too, to have the butterflies stand out separate from the bombs. Crazy. Again, more of that sequential storytelling, absolute use of reference. It could be photo trace for the F-117 stealth. Hard to say. These lower pages, I mean, I kind of wish these pages were in here blown up. The detail on that freaking background, holy Lord. In a way, you might think that a page like that would take a long time, and it would be an interesting kind of question to ask him. But when you're just kind of like rendering in trees and nature, it's going to take a minute, but it's funner to do that than, again, like straight concrete buildings and skyscrapers in New York, in my opinion. That's funner to do. Great drawing here. Is that Kitty Pryde and Lockheed? I'm going to guess. Fantastic. And another thing that he's good at, and I look at these and I see a similarity, like how, like, for example, J. Scott Campbell is able to do caricature type stuff like this, where it's a cartoony drawing, but it looks exactly like you know who we're looking at. I also remember, I meant to look this up. I think I said this 3 years ago when I reviewed this book. The artist from Mad Magazine, is it Mort Drucker? I see a similar-ish style. This stuff is incredible. Like, this is a skill that I wish that I had, and I've tried to do, to take and draw a caricature of a character, of an actor, say, a real human being, like in this case, Sam Elliott, and do like a cartoony version of him, but you can still tell who it is. And that's a specific, unique thing. Like, I can take a drawing, or rather, let's say, I could take a photo of somebody and look at it and then draw it and come up with a reasonable, close approximation. But to just do a exaggerated, cartoony version like that, unbelievably awesome. Red Sonja riding a horse, awesome. Red Sonja hiding behind some rocks, sword in hand, dagger in mouth. Great coloring again. Holy shit. Fun cartoony drawing there. Great coloring, rendering on this girl, whoever she is. Love the red skull. Classic, like, old school kind of Nazi guy. Kind of, is that a Komodo? Badass. Look at this. Spider-Man Noir. So great. Look at that Spider-Man coming down. Again, I'm going to assume digital zips on the figure. Perfect. Look at this cartoon. Again, kind of like a Mad Magazine kind of thing. Oh, there's that. Okay. This cartoony drawing of the girl in the baby carriage is this part of this drawing down here. So great. And again, I'm going to assume that Panosian actually drew in by hand the Spider-Man Noir text. Again, drawing blocky text like that is not anything that's fun to me. But when you nail it just like he did, it works. It's like so worth the effort. Simple Black Widow drawing. Again, another girl riding a giant lizard thing. Chameleon? Is that what the hell I'm trying to think of? I don't know. More great buildings. There is Valkyrie. Look at the backgrounds. Again, this is all. I've said this before. Sometimes with inking, this is probably going to sound dumb, and somebody would probably have a better way of explaining it, but there's almost like a painterly approach to some of this stuff where I'm trying to find a tool. This is not a great example, but like you're like, sometimes when people think of inking, like there's a pencil line and you're trying to throw sharp, strong line weights and strokes to make the pencil drawing pop in nice, sharp black and white ink, right? But this type of stuff, it's almost like a painterly approach where it looks like you're almost like dabbing it in there and almost painting it in a way. And then you come in with a finer pen or a finer brush and give it some sharp points where there's, sharper grass. And then you do some ink splatter to give it a texture. And then the trees back here, like this is just taking your ink brush and you just kind of following and just creating these organic tree shapes. And then thinner lines for the branches. And then again, ink splatter just to be flicked on there to give it some volume. And then the composition of everything, offsetting the girl off to the side, up a little bit, her name kind of falling in the ground. It looks so fun to draw, but it feels like almost like a painterly approach rather than inking, when you have like Jim Lee threw down these great pencils and then Scott Williams comes along and he gives it his nice kind of ink touch. But this is when you're inking yourself, you get to kind of play and be more free and organic. I hope I don't sound completely off the wall there. Great Electra, great color. Like the red, and then with the cool tones behind her, makes her pop. Great He-Man drawing. The He-Man looks good, but that Skeletor skull face, that is where I'm looking. Flash Gordon, awesome. Great face, great double lighting, the warm tone on one side, the cool on the other, and then getting these like shadows to indicate the cheekbones and then where the mouth and the jaw come forward. So fantastic. That's the heavy metal girl, whatever the hell her name was. Look at the Rat Pack here. God damn it, that's so good. Oh, so great. Looks like maybe some dry brush inking effect going on, which again is kind of like a painterly approach. You get that same brush and then you got ink on it, but then you kind of take like a paper towel or another piece of paper and you kind of get the excess ink off, and then you come in and you get like a fuzzy kind of gray, almost like sometimes it could kind of look like a colored pencil kind of thing, but it's not exactly like that. I wonder if that's what that is. I don't know. Whatever his technique is, he's employing everything that's needed to just make it work perfectly. Death there, Sandman there. Oh man, all the white paint splattered across all of that. God, the color choice in that one. That is just, wow. Just lost. And then another thing, like a lot of people get lost in drawings with like the figures, the muscles, the double lighting. I'm sitting here looking at this. Everything in here is fantastic, but the ability to draw an open book falling through the air, the book's folded open, pages flipping back and forth. It's like a minor thing, but you have to understand how to draw these things and what a book actually freaking looks like. And it doesn't take much to give it some three-dimensional realistic look, and it's just perfect. But yeah, I love the color in that. Holy crap. Again, I don't want to go too long here. He did a run on Conan. It was amazing. Love this. It's like, I don't know if I ever picked up on this before. This girl, she's like a little demon girl, like wings attached to the back of her. I thought she was wearing clothes, but she's actually not. Just her body's covered in shadow, and that's what's covering up her figure. And Conan, he walks through great horse, great gray tones. I'm looking at it up close, trying to see if how the gray tones are used. Is that a ink wash maybe? But I never noticed the little female figure. It looks like she's wearing like a little, revealing outfit, but she's actually not wearing anything. It's just shadows covering her. God, is that good. Schwarzenegger Conan, hell yeah. More multiple Conans, hell yeah. Great three-dimensional axe. The skull, the sharp-edged weapon. It looks like a real three-dimensional shape. Another Schwarzenegger Conan. Seen that image before. Silver Surfer, the Red Sun. God, holy shit, I love the detail on the sword. The gray tones to give the rendering on his face, the perfect hair. God damn, is that fantastic. I mean, it's all great. Frankenstein. Beautiful. Betty Page. Beautiful. Loki riding a weird demon horse thing. The Hellfire Club. So great. More great backgrounds. These organic backgrounds that he inks on here. Absolutely beautiful. Great Wolverine. Love the shadows on his face. And the claws kind of come up in front of him. Great motorcycle on the Wolverine there. Great anatomy. It's kind of got a Mark Silvestri-ish vibe. I kind of see a Silvestri kind of looking at. That's incredible. Has Panosian ever done a Wolverine run? Holy shit. Marvel, give him a Wolverine run. Moon Knight, hell yeah. Namor, hell yeah. Jack Kirby, hell yeah. Love the almost all Zipatone Daredevil. Great city shot. Man, the backgrounds in this. These lights. That's probably some digital After Effect. Fantastic. So good. So good. Love this one. The coloring. The cool tones in the background. And then the reds on these guys. And then in the rain, reflection. Ninjas and shit. All this Old West stuff. This is the man that likes to draw. Animal skulls, bisons, guns in holsters, broken down wagons, shithouses, axes in tree stumps, giant cocks, anvils, skulls lying in the grass. Somebody back east is saying, "Whack don't he right?" The Warriors 3, that's awesome. 60s era spy Nick Fury, badass Punisher. Freaking awesome. Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. That shot of Prophet. Going back to some of his earlier days and drawing the best version of Prophet you've ever seen. Beautiful Vampirella. Great, graveyard scene. American flag. Great Batman. More great Batmans. Daughter of the Dragon. Classic Christopher Reeve Superman. Love it. Lady Hawk. Iron Fist. Tarzan? Guessing? Great old school kind of 60s era Catwoman there. Not sure who this girl is. Of course, it looks fantastic. Just trying to blast through the end here. Hell yeah. Dawn Attack. Not sure what that is. Love it. Black Tape. Not sure what that is. That shot. Great. Giant close-up on the face to the extreme with the open, screamy mouth. This is a Rob Liefeld staple. But this is how you do it right. That's how you do it correctly. Thank you. In case you couldn't tell, I'm an absolute fan. Dan Panosian. He's just fantastic, right? It's just incredible. So, I don't know. What more can I say? Check out the guy's stuff. Follow his work. Buy his books. And if you're an artist, you you could do worse than to learn how to draw and techniques from just observing the kind of work that this man does. It's just some of the most inspiring stuff I've ever seen. To see where he was and where he is and where he ended up. This is absolute true artistic growth, to where he went from like somebody I would never pick up a book because he drew to now he's like God level, and everything he does is fantastic. So that's all I've got for now. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.